Everybody's heard of a mood board, but do you know how important they are, or indeed how to even make one? With me in the studio today is interior design consultant Lucinda Griffith. Thanks
Hello.
for joining us again, Lucinda. We have been talking to the client. I did what you said. We got our cuttings.
Perfect.
Now we need to know how to make a mood board. We did quite a lot of cutting, by the way.
So I see, don't worry. Actually, that's the right thing to do. You need to get a consistent feel for what your client likes. So lots of cuttings, good start. Now what we
Excellent.
need to do is just go through them and distill a sort of current theme that the client is constantly picking out and see what that is.
What was incredible was while I was talking to the client, I was discovering that actually these decisions really need to be made now. The biggest issue seemed to be bathrooms, because in the house there are 4 bathrooms,
Right.
1 cloakroom. And I started to realise now, is this something, do we make a mood board for each bathroom? Do we make one generic mood board? Because obviously if you like one thing in a bathroom, you're probably going to like it in all the bathrooms.
Very true.
So there seem to be a lot of issues. Starting with the first, mood board for every bathroom or a generic bathroom?
Ultimately, yes. You can start, if the whole idea is sort of too intimidating, start with one mood board to get a general feel for what you like in bathrooms, but with the intention of breaking it down into individual bathrooms. Otherwise, you can end up feeling a bit like a hotel and that
Yes.
you've bought everything in bulk. That, I think, is something you want to avoid.
Absolutely right. So, okay, this is our big Blue Peter moment. Start by telling me exactly what we need for our mood board.
It's very simple. We've got here just some very simple A3 card. A3 is a good size, big enough to play around with, but not so big that you're permanently having to hide it under the sofa. Bit of blue tack, some double-sided sticky tape, Pritt stick, whatever
Please
works
let me
for
use
you.
my scissors
and
as well.
scissors, absolutely. And to start with, your pile of cuttings. What we're doing here is it's almost like laying out a recipe. The ingredients that are going to make up the whole room. And the value of a mood board is that instead of choosing things individually, seeing something in a shop, seeing something in somebody's house, your client is going to be able to look at all their choices together and see if it cooks up into something delicious.
Okay, let's get cooking. So our first lot of ingredients, these are bathrooms. So I noticed you've written master en suite. We're going to start with one bathroom.
Yes.
So here we are. Let's pick some
Absolutely.
things. I know that this was a particular favourite, and you can
This is
see,
a lovely look.
Yes, it is a lovely look. Personally, I think that brings Georgian and modern quite, they knit together quite well.
It
in that
does. One of the
photograph.
reasons I think Georgian is a popular look is because it's very unfussy, so it suits a modern interpretation without fiddling with the architecture. So a clean-lined Georgian house. This actually, looking at it, I'd imagine this panelling has probably all been created with MDF.
Mm-hmm.
It's not actually originally Georgian, but it's giving a lovely Georgian feel. I think it would be perfect for your client.
Right. Okay, so what would you do now? Stick that one on?
I would actually stick this on. Now, you can use some blue tack if you want. Later on, if you like things to be neat and tidy, then trim it all down and you can glue it on, perhaps with some double-sided sticky tape or something, so that as you're moving your boards around...
And do you move your boards around? Do you find yourself going from room to room, or do you...
It can be very helpful. There's 2 things it's worth doing once you've got boards for the whole house. Lay them all out at once. Your house is also one big recipe, not just each room. By putting all the boards out side by side, you're going to get a feel for whether this house is going to flow beautifully, or whether in fact the client was having a sort of a modern moment and then was having a very old-fashioned moment or a Cath Kidston moment. You want to see that there's a nice flow running through. And
Hopefully we'll be there to stop that, by the way.
well, I hope so.
I mean, all the changes. Individually, all those are quite nice.
Absolutely.
Right, so let's look through some of the things. I notice here there's a whole selection of bathrooms. I mean,
Absolutely.
but they're all different colours and slightly different styles.
But what we're looking for, and what any client doing this is going to be looking for, is what it is that's consistently drawing them. So this, for instance, we've got a bath here that's built in, and interestingly, look, here's another bath
Right.
built in,
Yes.
and
and
another
again,
bath
yes.
that's built in. So that's giving us an idea. Here, ironically, we have, of course, the lovely freestanding bath, but it seems that that's something, this sort of lovely furnished room. They're not going for a very Spartan space here, are they? They've got pretty walls, they've got a sense of things in the room. So we know straight away this client doesn't want a sterile bathroom.
No.
And looking at all your photos that anyone has pulled out, that's what you're going to learn
Right.
from your own from choices that people have made.
And colour scheme too. I mean, we're ranging from greys to blues.
Greys to blues, definitely.
There's continuity there at least.
there is, but it's by ripping out all these things from magazines that you do learn what you keep picking. Also, interestingly, look, we've got stripes here, stripes there. There's obviously a little bit of a liking for stripes coming from your client. I wonder if they even realise it.
So would you then stick all of these on for the mood board, or just the one?
No, interestingly, this process, you've got them to rip everything out, and that's great.
Right.
This process is teaching us what they like. Pull out the one that just sums up the overall look, and don't feel it's got to be everything that you want.
Yes.
If somebody else had already created your room, then you're very lucky. The chances are we're just going for a feel. It's a mood board. It's not an exact recipe at this stage.
So is it a case of listing, I don't know, floors, paints? Do you actually have to list
I
those
wouldn't
inside?
necessarily. I'd use this much more as a sort of a picture jigsaw, shall we say? So here we've got this. What your client might then move on to is getting some bathroom catalogues at some point, and as taps are chosen and things, you can stick pictures of those on. Always keep your sort of inspiration picture on there, but we can start adding in the things that they specifically might want to choose, or the direction of things if it's. So I've got here in a very Blue Peter way some pieces that I'd prepared earlier. I know, it's shockingly Blue Peter. This is, for instance, is a floor tile. Now it may not be the exact idea that your client wants to go, it might not suit their budget, but by adding things like this in, I've painted up a sample for us of a wall colour here.
It's very close. Well done.
So here, and even a fabric, you might have a blind in your bathroom, you can start adding these in. Now the benefit of this is suddenly we're looking at how the room might feel. And you can change these things at this stage. It's very expensive to change a floor once it's down. A mood board gives you the chance to take something off and say, oh, actually, maybe I want to do a different floor. Maybe I want to put this in. And you can have a look at it and say, oh, okay, how does it change it? How do all your ingredients work together?
What would you start with in terms of the mood board? I mean, okay, say we had a lovely selection here. Would you say, okay, let's go back to basics. Let's look at the big thing, the bath.
Yes.
You have to now choose one. And how would you go about choosing one? I mean, did you say, I want that one?
I want that one. But the problem is, that bath, it looks lovely. It could be £3,000. That might not be in the client's budget.
Right.
So what you do is you have a look at your main picture and you say, right, these are lovely old-fashioned taps with the ceramic headings. So we'd start looking through perhaps catalogues, places that are within your client's budget, and you find taps that you like, and you can cut out pictures of those and add them to it. Now this is where the blue tack's invaluable, because then as you finally make a decision, you put the final piece on. You can also, looking at this, we've only got a bath on here, so we now need to have a look through.
Let's have a look. So, I mean, I know that was the weird thing, and I suppose showers are a modern thing. You can't get away from it.
They are.
They weren't there in Georgian times, so it's going to look
And I would recommend that you stick with that. Don't try and sort of age up something that wouldn't have existed then.
Because then we're back to
really
oldie
helpful.
worldy again.
Exactly. Can I borrow the scissors? Have we hidden those underneath here? There we are. So here we've got a beautiful clean lined shower. Now the good thing about that is that it's going to sit very comfortably because it's not making a big decorative statement actually. It will reflect what's around it. So if we cut this out.
And again, the colour scheme's amazing. They seem to work.
It's interesting. The client has very much got a colour idea in here. So by sticking this in here, but look at this, we've got a very modern vanity. So just cut that out so it doesn't distract the eye when you're looking at things. Now, the helpful thing about this is even though lovely old traditional bath, that's not feeling out of place on this colour board.
Right.
You're getting an idea of what works together so that when the room is finally there in sort of 3 dimensions, this is what we're going to end up with as an effect. A lovely, calm, traditionally motivated room, but without ignoring the good things that have come with 21st century living.
Absolutely. And so now, would you start budgeting? You'd start getting the prices for all these things and start working out how things go.
Yes, and that's what's helpful about these, is you start with your board, you get an idea of understanding what it is that you like, what appeals to you. You can then go out, and when you're choosing things, you can constantly refer back and say, actually, are these taps?
Yeah. Or how much
similar
did I
thing
really
to
want
that?
those taps?
Do I really love them? Exactly. But also, can I get a similar version at a lower price.
Right. So we're going to have to do that 4 times and then rush out and get all the prices and get our calculators
Yes,
out.
but do start this process earlier. It will cost you a lot less. If you make these decisions before the builders have even started,
Right.
if you've started on this process yourself, you've got time to find the good deals, time to search around. There's a good chance, and I think a lot of people get caught out by this, that suddenly the builder says to you, oh, I need the taps next week. Exactly. You're
We're
stuck
certainly not
paying
ready.
hundreds of pounds just to get everything. And bear in mind, some of these things have a long delivery as well.
Yes. And being a bit of a sale queen myself,
Yes.
if we're prepared, we might be able to just catch the sale.
It's sometimes worth investing. If you don't have storage, it's worth investing in a little self-store so that you can be buying these things in advance, have them sitting and waiting. It can end up
Catch those
saving you a
sales.
fortune.
Excellent. Brilliant advice. We'll be back with more very soon.